Life is just too short to make every mistake by yourself and then learn from them. So, what Sarthi does is that because they have had a lot of experience in the residency matching system, that they know what are the most common mistakes that people make, and then they teach you to avoid those mistakes. Thank you, Pavan sir, and it's so nice to see you again after the match. And hello, everybody. I am Calvin. I'm an IMG from India, and I applied for this current match cycle. I matched in internal medicine categorical position at University of Buffalo Catholic Health System. So I finished my high school in India, then I went to China for my medical education. Then I did a couple of rotations in US and Canada, and then I applied for the match season. And so Sarthi has been very instrumental in this entire journey, from helping me find rotations to helping me write PS, CV, and many other things, ultimately interview preparation, and then rank order lists. So you see, over the years, what I have found is that, life is just too short to make every mistake by yourself and then learn from them. So what Sarthi does is that because they have had a lot of experience in the residency matching system, that they know what are the most common mistakes that people make, and then they teach you to avoid those mistakes. So one area that Sarthi, you know, gives you a lecture on is program outreach, and that's what I'll be talking about today. So program outreach is one of, I would say, the most important part of your application preparation, and it's also one of the common areas where people tend to ignore them. So basically, what program outreach is that, well, a few months before the application starts, even during the application season, the residency cycle, you reach out to programs showing your interest, and then you mention a few lines about your accomplishments, your scores, or whatever, and then you show your interest in that way. You see, there are many benefits if you do it right. So I would say that by doing program outreach right, I was actually able to get 3 to 4 more interviews. So you see, when you in program outreach, usually Sarthi asks us to do it a few months before the era starts. So in that way, what happens is that you create some kind of impression in the minds of the program directors. So they see your mail and they see your interest in their program, they see your accomplishments. So you create an initial impression. And then when you apply to their programs, they keep you in mind. And then you reach out to them throughout the cycle, and then hopefully you get interviews. And so what happens is that we usually tend to believe the world to be fair, right? But then the reality is that since there are so many applicants, what ends up happening is that since there are limited spots in the program and they invite limited number of people, what happens is that once they've fulfilled their criteria, like they've fulfilled all the interview positions, they stop reviewing your applications. So what program outreach does is that it puts you in their mind so that they review your application beforehand, before many other people. So in that way, you are able to stand out. And one thing that Pavan sir told us last year was that if you pay $27 and apply to a program, it is your right to request them to review your application. So then the thing is, if your application never reaches the program director, they never review it. So that's how you get your application reviewed. That's why you hear some people who have really stellar scores and they don't get interviews because the programs have already filled most of their spots. And one, I would say another benefit of program outreach is that if you do it a few months before the cycle starts, you get an idea. Like some of them, they do reply to you. And that's where it helps you decide which programs you are going to signal. Because if a program says, okay, we will review your application and you signal them, it provides a stronger impression. And finally, that's also something, that may come up in your interviews. Like during my interview, some program directors, they asked me about my strength. And I told them that I was a very persistent person. And few of them, they said that, yes, I do remember your emails because you kept on sending emails. But I really love your persistence and your tenacity. So that's another thing. And Sarthi has a whole class dedicated to program outreach and many other things that people may not teach you or they may not share with you. So again, well, I've had a lovely experience with Sarthi, and it has really saved me a lot of trouble looking for information myself. And yes, that is all about program outreach.
So, Calvin, thank you for that. Also, can you share a bit about international experience that you gained, right? Especially, I think, in Canada, and how did you leverage that in your application and interviews?
So I was lucky enough to have a tourist visa of Canada. Not many people have that. But if you do, I would say that, see, there's a popular belief that only US LORs are preferred. If you're applying for US residency and your home country residency, they are not as preferable. But what I've noticed is that it's a gamble that I took and it paid off because Canada and US has similar healthcare systems. So you can get a rotation in Canada and it will be just as valuable in the US as any other US LOR because that was the feedback that I got from my interviewers. So that was one different path that I took because back in 2022, when I started my journey, COVID was still a big thing. So then Canada was just opening and I did some rotations there. And then in 2023, I did some rotations in the US. So that is how I went. If you do have Canada, I would say if you're not getting a rotation in the US, you can try that out. Uh, Otherwise, yeah. So that really helps because in Canada, I would say in Canada it's easier to find rotations, but then it's almost impossible to match into the residency. In US, it's tougher to find rotations, but it's easier to match into the residency. So it's like, very opposite things. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Calvin. And just to be clear, first try to get a rotation in the US, right? So, and then if you don't get it, probably Canada would be a good option.
Yes.
So don't just think that you don't have to do USC, just go to Canada. First
No.
try in the US. If not, then Canada could be an alternative.
Yes, it's like the second best, but the best is always US, and then yeah, then Canada.
Okay. Thank you, Calvin. Appreciate always your willingness to help other students. Cannot thank you enough.
Thank you so much for watching. We hope that video provided valuable insights for your journey. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And check out our website for details on how we can guide you to a successful match.